It's got enough light. All right.
Okay, folks, we're just getting settled in here in the county boardroom. I'm glad everyone's here today with us. So I'm going to call this Thursday, February 17th meeting of the Rules and Resolutions Committee and Ethics Board to order. We do have a quorum present. We have Mr. Severson, Mr. Cosgrove, and myself here in the county boardroom, and we've got Supervisor Luck online. And we have a couple other county board members here today too. We've got Supervisor Glassbrunner online, and we've got Supervisor Dentis in the room with us today. Agenda item number 2, proof of notification. This meeting was properly notified, and someone from the administrator's office was kind enough to post it in the hallway downstairs, so thank you for that. Agenda item number 3, we have an 11-point agenda today, so I'm looking for a motion to approve this agenda. So moved. Motion by Cosgrove. Second. Second by Severson. Any discussion on the agenda? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that carries unanimously. We're all in favor. Agenda item number 4, previous meeting minutes. Looking for a motion to approve those.
Severson moves for approval.
Okay, motion by Severson. Second by Cosgrove. Any discussion on those? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay, that motion carries. We have approved minutes. Agenda item number 5, public comments. I added this time and put a note under it. Topics raised and comments received from the public may be placed on a future agenda for consideration. Are there any comments from members of the public today? Okay, hearing no comments, we'll move on to agenda item number 6, roles and responsibilities of the county board chair and vice chair. So at 2 weeks, the last meeting of the Rules and Resolutions Committee, which was 2 weeks ago, we had this on the agenda, but we weren't able to get to it because we had a pretty lengthy discussion on committee restructuring and then an amendment to our ethics ordinance. So that's why this one's at the top of the agenda today. So at the January meeting of this committee, we adopted a motion to draft an amended policy, which is called Authority of Management, Roles of Members and Chairs of Committees, Boards, and Commissions, to include required and optional roles and responsibilities for the county board chair and vice chair. So that policy is on Mr. Langrecht's website. It kind of distinguishes what's the role of committee members on the county board versus what's the role of employees at the county. There's a section there on what's the role of the county board chair, and it's pretty brief. So we were looking at the idea of fleshing things out more. So I'm thinking today what the best way to do this might be, and I'm open to other suggestions, of course, but what I prepared a few weeks ago was I went through all the different statutes, and I went through several different peer counties and what they have their county board chairs do. They listed out in their rules of the county board. There are several other documents, and I grouped these by category. So there are 3 things that are required that the county board chair do. And these are in Wisconsin statute 59.12. And those 3 things are: 1, to perform all duties required of the chairperson until the board elects a successor. 2, to preside at county board meetings when present, and 3, to countersign all ordinances of the county board. So we don't have any of those 3 things really clearly spelled out in our county board rules or anywhere else in our authority document of different committee members and employees. So I think that's kind of a slam dunk. We kind of have to do that. The question from Mr. Cosgrove was, are all these things being done, specifically the last one? And I don't know the answer to that. Does anyone else know? The county board chair has to sign ordinances.
I think I remember our former chair signing ordinances before, but I don't know if it's done.
I believe that's correct.
Mr. Langreich, do you know if our current county board chair is signing ordinances? Okay, so we can get an answer on that.
Just curious.
Let me go track that down.
Eric
Real
is
time.
online.
Yes,
Oh, Clerk Kalish?
yes, Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
The question is whether or not the chair is signing ordinances currently.
That's correct.
Yes, he is. After
Okay.
the meeting, I usually catch up with Marty and have him come in and sign them.
Okay. Thank you. So we just don't have that written down anywhere. But it's in state law, so of course, even if it's not written down in our documents, it still has to be done, so. Okay, so then under the optional section, so I did also pull several of these from the Richland County Board Rules and the committee structure document, and so I put the source after each of these in parentheses and in italics. So there's 15 categories. I had to be a little creative to make all these categories, so hopefully, yes, I am talking about optional roles, Mr. C. Okay, so the 15 categories are agendas, appointments, committee memberships, committee voting powers, county board meeting procedures, laws, miscellaneous, oaths, recruitment for vacancies, referrals, relationships, both internal and external, removals, seating arrangements, signatures, and voting at county board meetings. So if the committee is amenable to doing it this way, and I'm not quite sure how this will work, but under each section, I think we need to make a decision about, do we want any of these? None of them? Do we like one of them, or do we like some combination of a couple? So the first section is agendas. Maybe I'll just read through this one, but maybe I won't have to read through them all like this, just to get us all on the same page for at least the first one. Under agendas, St. Croix County puts in their rules that the county board chair sets the agenda. In Price County, they say the county board chair is responsible for the preparation of the written agenda of the county board in conjunction and with the assistance of the county administrator and county clerk. In Sawyer County, they say working with the county administrator, the county board chair should be responsible for the preparation of the written agenda. In St. Croix County, it's much more long. It's in consultation with the county administrator, makes discretionary additions to the county board agendas for matters of urgency, directs the county clerk on what items are to appear on the county board agenda, changes county board meeting dates and times if necessary. The fifth option is from the Wisconsin Counties Association handbook, and there it says whether or not the board chair sets the county board agenda, that should be described in our rules. The sixth option is approving considerate. This comes from our board rules, number 1. Currently, we give the chair the responsibility of approving consideration of resolutions and ordinances or their subsequent drafts, if not sent out by Wednesday before the county board meeting. And then county board rule number 5 currently in Richland County is to approve the order of agenda items. So nowhere do our county board rules say that the chair sets the agenda or works with other people to prepare the agenda or approves it. It just talks about approved consideration of resolutions and ordinances. So what do folks think about this one? Do you want to keep it the way it is, or would you like to see some change?
Can I start off with a comment, maybe?
Sure.
Just in kind of, this is in context of G on the approve the order of the agenda items. I do think in my experiences in watching, it's been very helpful where the chair has exercised the liberty to move around on the agenda to try to help facilitate for folks that are arriving from the public to entertain their items and then kind of get them on their way. So to clarify, maybe not only approving the order, but having liberty to move around. I'm not sure maybe the best way to word that, but I think that's a good thing to capture. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Who sets our agenda currently?
Currently, right now, the resolutions and ordinances and items are requested through Clerk Kalish, and then I believe between myself and Clerk Kalish, kind of monitoring the agenda, push it out there, and Marty kind of gives it the blessing. If we're adding things post the mail out date, then we're ensuring that Marty's made aware of it and that he's okay with having it put on there. And Clerk Kalish, who's on, if I misspoke, please correct me.
So it sounds like currently the county board chair is approving the agenda for the county board meetings. Okay, Mr. Seat.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Is this mic on? Yes. As I recall, any county board member can request an item on the agenda. Historically, in the past, generally the request for placing an item on an agenda was, I think, submitted to the clerk, sometimes to the chair, who would place it on the agenda. And in the final analysis, the chair was responsible for the approval of the agenda. I think the term "set the agenda" alone is subject to definition. We just say the chair sets the agenda. It sounds a little bit exclusive and perhaps overburdensome for the chair. Others may have a different opinion.
Okay, other thoughts? Thank you, Mr. Seat.
I know if I were chair, and I wouldn't want to be chair, I certainly wouldn't want the total responsibility for setting the agenda.
I think that, I can, Mr. Chair. I think that it is appropriate for the chairperson of the county board to set the agenda, since he is running our meetings, but I also think there should be some wording in there to where if anybody needed to add anything to the agenda, our supervisors, that could be added to there without being struck or something. Because somebody could have something that they wanted on their agenda, but then the chair always keeps striking it off the agenda and they can never talk about it. Something like that. But I also think it's a good working relationship we have right now with the chair and the administrator and the county clerk working. I just think we just need it down on paper right now to say that that's what's happening.
Mr. Cosgrove? Yep.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think bullet point B probably captures most closely to what you're saying, but possibly with the addition of county board supervisors, because they do have the right for input as well.
Mr. Chair,
Yep, Mr. Seat.
I appreciate Carrie's remark. I think it's very intelligent as usual. I think there was somewhere in the rules that should the chair decide to strike an item from the agenda, that the board could, by majority vote, overrule that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Pardon?
That is correct. I'm
Yeah.
talking about making of the agenda, not an already posted agenda.
I was referring to your striking issue.
That would be prior, that would be in making the agenda.
Very good distinction.
Okay, so it sounds like there's some interest in letter B. And I'm just gonna read the way it's worded. This is from Price County. And let's consider if we want to keep this wording exactly or maybe change it at all. Be responsible for the preparation of the written agenda of the county board in conjunction and with the assistance of the county administrator and county clerk. Sounds like
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Cosgrove. Oh, yeah, Ms. Luck, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, why are they specifying written agenda? Is there another form of agenda that is not written?
I don't know, and we can't ask them. Not today, at least. But it does seem a little extra to have the word written in there. Okay, so, anyone opposed to striking the word written?
Chair.
Are you opposed to striking the word written?
No, I'm not opposed.
Okay, hold on just a second then. So it sounds like we're all okay with striking that word. Is there any other word changes for letter B?
Mr. Chairman,
Yep, go ahead.
on the issue or the question of a written agenda,
Oh, sure.
whether or not we use the word written. There are occasions in public meetings, such as in a public forum or in other meetings, where at the meeting, the body, members at the meeting, can ask that items be put up for discussion. And so someone uses a blackboard or whatever and lists an agenda for a meeting. This happens every year at annual town meetings, most town meetings. The electors are the law at a town meeting, and they can bring up anything they want to provide for some order to the meeting. Someone, as people get up and raise a question they want to discuss, these items are listed on a blackboard, and that becomes their agenda. Now, it does become in writing because they put it on the board, but it's not public.
But Mr. Steve, we can't do that for counties. Towns have different laws than counties do.
I understand that, but I'm talking about public forums.
Okay. So any other word changes that we'd like to make here? I know Mr. Cosgrove, you mentioned something about supervisors. I know some counties will have a section on their county board agenda that requests future agenda items, kind of like we do for this committee. So I don't know so should we change this sentence or should we add something separate, or what do you think?
Not necessarily a firm feeling one way or the other. It was just thrown out there as a optional question, I guess. I'm fine with the way it's written currently.
Okay.
Striking written.
Okay. Okay, so let's get a motion on the floor then to approve adding 1B to, I think we'll be having to draft probably not only an amended policy, but also probably amended board rules. So I think this is a motion to approve incorporation of 1B into future rules or policy.
Make that motion, but I would also like to, I think we should keep F and G.
Okay, so
Same bullet.
and the motion probably includes striking the word written. Okay. So motion by Cosgrove,
I'll second.
a second by Luck. Mr. Severson? Clerk Kalish, you probably would
I
know.
didn't have my microphone on.
Oh, can you repeat that question?
Are there any rules or guidelines in the state statute for the county clerk regarding setting the agenda or making an agenda county board that we overlooked?
So Clerk Kalish, do you know the answer to that? I don't know the answer to that myself. I know it's 59 point something. I just don't know what the exact statute is for the clerk, but.
Chair,
Oh, yes, we got Mr. Wendell here. I forgot.
59.23 sub 2 sub A, board proceedings. The clerk is to act as the clerk of the board at all the board's regular head. Create an agenda for board meetings, keep and record true minutes of all the proceedings of the board in a format chosen by the clerk. And other extraneous language is.
It said create an agenda.
Create the agenda. I am However, that's just the statute. I would need to look further to determine if there's exceptions to that later on, or if the board can, by ordinance, change the duties of the clerk. Although he's
standing behind you.
Oh, he's behind me. Oh. Yeah. Come on in. Go ahead, Mr. Kalish.
Mic is not working. I'm not sure why. Okay, so Mike, did you answer the question that I came down to talk about?
He read the statute. You can create the agenda.
Right, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So,
Thanks for running down here.
no problem. So that's, I guess I tried to say this earlier, but my mic again wasn't working. When items are coming into me, then I'm getting them as they come in. They're being approved by Corp Counsel, and once Mike is signed off on them, I literally put them on the agenda in the order in which they come in. I try to group like ones together, depending on what it is. Clint and I usually look at this, and then, if all is well, it's posted, so.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask Clerk Kalish a question?
Yep, as long as it's about the agenda.
Yes.
Okay.
I
Go ahead.
would like to ask Clerk Kalish, as agenda items come in, as you say, some come directly to you from board members, some come from staff, some come from sources.
Most likely from a department head who's taking them through their committee, because that's one thing I'm checking for, is to make sure they've gone through the proper oversight committee and that information. So, rarely ever do I get resolutions from anyone other than a department head who's trying to get a decision to county board, so.
Not a resolution, an agenda item.
Yeah, those are usually in the form of a resolution because they're trying to do something, so that rarely happens.
So when you get them, do you have to refer them then to Corp Counsel, or they go both ways?
I've never had someone email me just to say I have an agenda item. It's typically a resolution going on county board.
Thank you.
So there's probably some rarities, like on a report or a presentation, or if I've got some folks that I'm appointing confirmations for appointments or things of that nature. But yeah, otherwise it's all resolutions, ordinance.
Appointments, or like Sue Triggs, who had her annual report at the meeting on Tuesday, that's just one of those reports that would go on the reports thing, and if it's a decision that the county board is needing to make, it's in the form of a resolution.
Okay, any further discussion on this motion? Okay, all those in favor, and by the way, the motion is to add 1B, removing the word written from 1B, and then keeping F and G, 1F and 1G. Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, that motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chair, I need to be excused.
Oh, go ahead. Okay, we'll move on to section number 2, appointments. Do people want me to read through all these, or what do you think? I don't want to bore you, but it's not fresh in your mind. It's not fresh in mine, but I'm happy to read them out. Okay, I'll just make the decision then. So let's see, we have A through L on this one, so there's quite a few. In Bayfield County, County Board Chair appoints committees from members of the board. State statute also does say that that language can be used, so that was also from state statute. Nozaki County, they appoint members, county board members, as members of the 5 standing committees. And then they make appointments to all other committees within the chairperson's province, subject to approval of the county board. In Price County and Sawyer County, they appoint all members of the standing committees with the exception of elected committees. Wisconsin Counties Association handbook says we just need to decide whether the board chair makes appointments or not. Currently, Richland County Board Rule 6 says that the county board chair receives notifications of prolonged, unexcused absences of members of committees, boards, commissions. Then state statute, the whole library board thing. The committee structure document that we have, statute 43.60, they both say that the county board chair appoints residents or county board members to library boards. But then state statute 59.18(2)C, which is the administrator statute, supersedes state statute 43.60. And it specifically says that, I believe, in that statute, if I remember right. And then 2G, this is in our committee structure document. It's in state statute. County Board Chair appoints resident veterans to the Veteran Service Commission and requires that each member and the Veteran Service Officer execute an individual surety bond. It wasn't real clear to me, but I think the administrator statute might supersede the other statute in this case. So that would mean Mr. Langrek would be appointing the resident veterans to a Veteran Service Commission instead of the County Board Chair. Under H, currently Wisconsin statute says that the County Board Chair shall designate the chair of the Emergency Management Committee. That's also in our committee structure document. 2I, this is state statute. County Board Chair appoints 7 members of the County Park Commission, any number of which may be members of the County Board. So if this has been going through committee on committees, that's actually not how statute's written. Should just be the County Board Chair. 2J, under our committee structure document, the County Board Chair is to make the appointment of 1 supervisor member to the Richland Center Park Board, City Park Board, subject to County Board confirmation. Under 2K, state statute says that the County Board Chair, doesn't say it directly here, but it infers that the County Board Chair may appoint members of the County Highway Commission if the County Board gives them the authority to do that. And then 2L, this is under the Richland County Administrator job description. The County Board Chair is to concur or object to the administrator's appointment of department heads of the county. That was an interesting little nugget I dug out the other day. So this is a pretty lengthy one. We've already kind of, I think this committee at least has made the decision to recommend to the county board that the County Board Chair appoint members to standing committees. Now, we haven't gotten into the detail of what those standing committees would look like, if there would be exceptions. There's all sorts of details to work out on a later agenda item here today. But so it kind of, I guess what I'm saying is it kind of seems like 2A, this committee has already gone down that route. Something along the lines of what's already in state statute and what Bayfield County has. I'm not sure exactly how we should look at this one right now, if we should make motions or not. What do you all think? Any thoughts on all these?
Essentially from E down, E being part of our board rules already, but the rest is statute driven, isn't it? So it has to be there. Really what we're talking about is one of those first few choices.
E through I, you'd skip J. Yeah, so that's probably a good way of looking at it. That simplifies it a little bit. We're really just looking at, do we want the county board chair to make appointments or not? And I think this committee has already given an opinion on that, and we just need to take that to county board at some point. We need to figure out the details of it. Does anyone object to 2L? Can the county board chair essentially be able to, I don't know, the implication is that they could veto the administrator's appointment of a department head. We want the county board chair to have that.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure that that is in accordance with statute. It's not a power delegated to the chairman, and appointment power is specifically spelled out as the administrator. So that's in the job description. I would say that that's on.
Okay. Good to know. So probably a motion would be in order to recommend removing 2L from the Richland County Administrator job description. Well,
Mr.
I think
Chair,
we probably, yeah, go ahead, Ms. Luck.
just a quick question. I always thought, my understanding was that our administrator gets to do those appointments, but they are subject to county board approval, not necessarily the chair, but county board approval. Is that not accurate?
That's right, Mr. Wendell's nodding his head.
That's what I meant, but the board chair has no special authority, but the appointments are still subject to by the board as a whole.
Right, so we wouldn't. Does it say the county board chair can concur or object in the job description?
Yes.
Apparently.
Oh, so yeah, we should change that, huh?
Yeah, so I think we should make a motion and I guess refer it to finance and personnel.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, so it's a motion to recommend removing 2L from the Richland County Administrator's job description and refer that to finance and personnel.
I'll second that.
Second by Luck. Further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, that motion carries. Anything else from section 2 that we should talk about before moving on? Okay, we'll go to section 3, committee membership. So in Ozaki County, they make the county board chair a member of the executive committee and its chair. In Price County, they allow the county board chair to act as an ex officio member of all committees of the county board. In Sawyer County, they say that the county board chair can be a member of standing committees and will be an ex officio member of all other committees of the county board. In St. Croix County, they say that the chair of the county board will be a chair and member of committee of the whole, which is their whole county board, is what that means. So it's a separate committee. They have a member of one, but not more than 2 standing committees, and shall not act as chair of a standing committee. In Waushara County, they say that the county board chair may act as an ex officio member of any committee of the county board. And then the county's association handbook kind of sums this up. They say you can specify whether the board chair is an automatic member of a committee or committees, whether the board chair is able to fill in for absent committee members at committee meetings. And then down to H, we currently say that the county board chair is an automatic member of committee on committees and finance and personnel. That's also in County Board Rule 2. And then we also have them currently in our structure document as a member of the ADA Compliance Committee, Simon's Natatorium Board, or their designee, Economic Development Board, Emergency Management Committee, and they might be, or they are a member of the City County Ad Hoc Committee, and I think Southwest Regional Planning Commission as well. So I think maybe a first question might be, do we want the county board chair to be able to fill in for absent committee members at committee meetings?
Is that what ex officio means? That they can fill in and vote?
We don't know the definition of ex officio. Mr. Wendell's gonna tell
Mr.
us.
Chair, it simply means that you are a member by dint of possession of a separate office. So whoever the board chair is by being the board chair, then automatically given membership to the other committees.
And they can vote.
Yes. Well, unless that is specifically written as an exception.
So, talk, I guess, my microphone with him.
Yep, you're on.
So if there was a committee, its members, and then there's a hot button agenda item, and all of a sudden the committee goes to a vote, that one vote of that county or board chair as an ex officio member could veto essentially what they were trying to accomplish, correct?
If it was a close vote, yes.
You could just come there and vote no, and then.
Yep.
Ex officio does not carry with it inherent voting power. I would say, though, if you do remove voting power, the chair would also not count for a quorum.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep, Mr. Seat.
I believe that the chair as ex officio member should have voting power. in the past, previous chairs have had voting power on committees as well as on the county board. I know that chairs like to, traditionally like to maintain a neutral demeanor, but I think it's appropriate. Any one person can be the veto in a closed vote, wouldn't necessarily be the chair. But if everyone else voted and it was a tie, of course, that would be the case. I'm in favor of the chair having that authority to, as an ex official member of every of every committee and board and commission.
Okay, Mr. Severson.
Mr. Chairman, I just don't like the idea of the county board chair overriding some of the committee's work. I would be in favor of having the chair fill in for a vacancy or an absence of a committee member or commission member, whatever that works. And then having the voting power then to fulfill.
Okay, thank you. My second, I've been thinking about this one, and my opinion is, I guess, a little opposite. I kind of think that the county board chair, I mean, is probably going to have to keep tabs on a lot of stuff going on, but as far as them having this special voting power that no other person has, I think that's maybe a little too much influence, I guess. So I'm a little less in favor of adding this membership to every committee. So,
Mr. Chairman.
did you still want to say something, Mr. Langer?
I had one comment kind of off of Supervisor Severson's where he'd mentioned that he was kind of okay with them filling a vacant seat. My experience at Clark County was the chair who had an office and was typically there for most of the day operations was able to fill in ex officio just to and vote for the sake of filling a quorum. So if it was if it was 7 people and there was 1 gone, then he would still just sit in the back. But if it was if they only had 3 there and they needed 4 for a quorum, then he'd sit at the table and make a vote.
That's why I had my hand raised. I was gonna add on to what you were said. I don't think maybe we're just showing up to committee member and not already having a vote for that, but like staying off there. But if they need to have a quorum, then, then he becomes that member if he wants to. I don't think he forced into that, but.
Yeah, and I'm not opposed to that. That makes
Like
more
if there's an
sense
important
to me.
agenda item, they didn't have a quorum, but something needs to get moved on because it needs to be done. He can step in and fill in for that.
Yeah, Mr. Seep, want to add something?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm kind of either way with this.
Okay, so I think maybe it sounds like what we're in favor of is the next section is committee voting powers. It's kind of related to section above, so but under 4A, I almost wonder if we're thinking of like what Price County has. They say as ex officio member, county board chair may have the authority, or I should say has the power to vote in such committee when requested by the committee chairperson to fill a position caused by the absence of a member of said committee. That's a little wordy, but it might be we just need to add the words to reach a quorum.
B is almost the same.
Does B Sawyer County 4B? Oh, maybe 4C is the best. Acts as a voting member if a quorum is not otherwise present for a standing committee. Maybe that's the one we're in favor. Okay, so.
Mr. Chair,
Yep, go ahead.
Mr. Cosgrove is so mild-mannered and mellow, I have a little difficulty hearing him.
You want to take another shot at it?
Well, actually, the chair corrected me. I said B. He actually said C, which I agree with C.
Okay, so let's get a motion on, adding 4C,
My apologies, Don.
which is that the chair acts as a voting member if a quorum is not otherwise present for a standing committee.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion by Luck,
Second.
second by Cosgrove. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Okay, that motion carries. Is there anything else from section 3 or 4 that we need to talk about right now, I wonder? Some of this I think we're going to talk about under committee restructuring too. So we'll have another shot at this. Okay, section 5, county board meeting procedures. This is a pretty long one. See if I can get us through this kind of quickly. In Sawyer County, maybe I should skip down to what we currently do. So that starts at 5D. We have way more, by the way, on our county board meeting procedures than any other county that I saw the rules for. We are very detailed on how the county board chairs should do some items, but I feel like some of the big items aren't there, but we have a lot of small items. So 5D is approve remote attendance of county board members at county board meetings. Actually, I forgot that until I read this. So good reminder to all of us.
We made that rule a few years back before 2020 happened.
Okay, so whoever's attending remotely for the county board meetings, we should be doing that unless we're going to change it. 5E, this was the one we added with COVID. If in-person meetings are not advised, as determined by the county board chair and or the county administrator, meetings of the county board and its committees may be conducted via teleconference, video conference, or other methods. 5F, the county board chair shall take the chair at the appointed time of county board meetings, ask the clerk to call the roll and call the meeting to order. 5G, ask if any member wants the minutes read or amended, and if not, declare them approved. And I know Mr. Brewer does that. It's rule 4 right now. 5H, preserve order and decorum and decide all questions of order. 5I, give permission to use cell phones during meetings. 5J, recognize members who wish to speak, including their order. 5K, limit the time of any speaker. So that's everything in our county board rules. And so, yeah, Mr. Wendell.
Mr. Chair, just one question. Reading the emergency situation, what happens if the chair and the administrator disagree? It says and or, so right now either party can declare an emergency situation, but I could see where, well, not with the current personnel, but potentially in the future, a situation where one party wants to insist on an in-person meeting and the other not.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. And this was set up, I remember a little bit of the discussion that there was a little discomfort with having just one person decide it, or it just didn't seem like it'd be realistic. Mr. Severson, I remember.
Who can declare an emergency for the county? It used to be before the administrator, it was the county board chair. Now that we got the administrator, I think it's the county administrator that can declare an emergency. But what is that emergency?
Is that in state statute?
I think that's in statute.
By default, I think it's something that's determined, but I can look into that.
I think it's either on a health thing or a public, like when we had the flood, I know our Chair Kirkpatrick signed a declaration of emergency for that. That was my experiences with the two of those that we've had to deal with, but in my terms. But I also remember the health emergency that we had, that county board chair did not declare that emergency. It was the county administrator that declared that an emergency.
We might just need a little.
No, in
Little
Vernon
information.
County, there's a hierarchy. So the county administrator has primary responsibility, and then it falls to the board chair. And then I believe the emergency management director.
You just recommend cleaning this up a little, making it clear.
match whatever the rule is for an emergency day.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Mr. C.
Doesn't the declaration of emergency depend upon an established set of criteria?
Or, in regards to declaring a state of emergency that's gonna make you eligible for different uh,
Some subjectivity, but also some objectivity.
yes.
Well, maybe we can just we'll get some more information on that. Let's not get too far in the weeds about that one.
It is by ordinance or resolution that the county can declare, delegate that authority. So I would need to look and see it.
Yeah, well, and we have a resolution right now that adopted these county board rules, so we do have a resolution saying either or can do it. So I think we just need to clear it up.
The emergency declaration resolution, not the.
Oh, I see. I see, not the county board rules.
I got one comment, I guess. Maybe we can set statute for different duties that they have, but however, the county administrator is appointed and works for the county board. So therefore, I would look at it as the county board chair would override what the administrator would have to say in that type of a situation. Because he technically works for the county board. I would assume. That's my opinion.
Mr. Chairman?
Could we get more information on this one?
Sure. To Supervisor Severson's point, the declaration is then subject to confirmation by the board at the earliest opportunity to say we need. But the board chair specifically has authority to override the decision of the administrator unilaterally. But again, I need to look at the emergency declaration resolution or ordinance before I can say anything.
Okay. Well, this one's a can of worms. Do we need to keep talking about it? We need more information, but I don't want to get lost. We got a lot on our agenda today. Okay, so, so other county boards, how they word the procedures are much briefer. In Sawyer County, they say the county board chair shall preside at board meetings in an efficient and effective manner and set the general tone for each meeting through positive leadership. Board deliberations will be fair, open, and thorough, with all members wishing to speak given a chance to do so. In St. Croix County, they say the county board chair should exercise the powers and perform the duties described in these rules and bylaws, those assigned by the board, those prescribed by Robert's Rules of Order newly revised, and all subsequent editions thereof. And then in Washera County, it says they may excuse the attendance of members and the excuse shall be entered into the minutes of the county board. And then also in the Richland County Administrator job description, it says that the county board chair excuses the absence of the administrator from county board meetings. The county board chair excuses the absence of the administrator at county board meetings. So if Mr. Langrek can't be there, Mr. Brewer, Chair Brewer can excuse him. The
So
one who has the
you
current
can
conflict.
excuse him from his job, but then he can't declare what we were talking about before. Can't override the county administrator.
Well,
Don't make any sense.
That's in our job description. We already
Don't
found
make any
something
sense.
else that wasn't right in our job description. So, yep. So how do folks feel knowing that 5E, we have a little work to do with that one on the emergency situation? Do we think we need to add anything about county board meeting procedures, or should we just leave it as is?
Langrick, Mr. Langrick, see any problem with leaving it the way it is? To have some input further.
For our existing, is that the question, Supervisor Seep? Any?
Yeah. As it is.
Yeah, 5D through K. That's what it is like right now. He's just asking, do you think any of that should be changed?
No, not at this time.
Okay, well, let's move on since I'm not hearing anybody speak up. Just interrupt me if you need to. The sixth section, a lot shorter. I need some shorter ones. Those are getting a little long. Laws. So state statute says that the county board chair, and I don't believe this is a shall one. I think this is a may one. So this is optional. If we want to say that the county board chair should take care that all federal, state, and local laws, rules, and regulations pertaining to county government are enforced, we can give that power to the chair. They do that in Bayfield County. In Ozaki County, they word it a little differently. They say that the county board chair shall expedite all such laws as may be resolved upon by the county board. And in Bayfield County, also in state statute, they say you can give the county board chair the power to expedite all measures resolved upon by the board. So a little bit looser. I'm assuming that means like resolutions. Versus the top one must be like ordinances or something like that. I don't know where policies fit into all this, but do we want to give that power to the county board chair? Yep.
The first point, 6A, speaks more to an executive power that I believe better lies with the administrator as the chief executive officer of the county. I would therefore recommend against that language.
Well, state statute 59.12 says that we can do that though.
We can, and if that's the decision of this body, however, I am recommending against.
Putting a lot of power in the control of one person.
Well, that person is then overseen by the body of the county board. If the administrator fails to or exercises his authority to enforce the laws, then he would then, or she should come up, would then be subject to oversight by the board.
Question.
Yep, go ahead.
In terms of enforcement, we're talking about county ordinances and policies and rules, not talking about civil law, criminal law, right?
It says all laws, so it would
All law. We don't need a sheriff then.
Well, the sheriff is a part, well, he's an elected official, and then is subject to oversight by the public.
The statute says, when directed by ordinance, the chairperson shall expedite all measures resolved upon by the board and take care that all federal, state, and local laws, rules, and regulations pertaining to county government are enforced. So it's pertaining to county government.
So therefore, Chairman,
Mhm.
and Mr. Wendell, can the county board or the county board chair give direction to the sheriff to enforce a law?
County board as a whole can set priorities and policies that the sheriff would then be in charge of enacting. If the county board were to go, or if the county board chair were to go to the sheriff and say, arrest this person for this crime, I would say that was an overzealous exercise in authority. I do not think that would be a legitimate function of the
I
board.
feel safe.
Can we think though about, I'm thinking less about state laws and more about county issues. So let's take an example of, we passed a policy that committee members have a limited set of authorities. They can't basically, get into the day-to-day management of staff. So say then a county board member decides to get into the day-to-day management of staff in a particular department. Who's going to enforce that? The sheriff's not going to enforce it. The corporation council?
This body as its function of the ethics board.
The ethics board currently just oversees the ethics ordinance, which is just about taking money in exchange
Which is
for
another point that we're trying to address.
Right, but to me, it's not clear who would do that currently. Who would step in and say to that county board member, like, hey, look, this is our policy. I mean, Mr. Langrek can't do it because he works for us. So who's doing it?
So
Is the sheriff doing it? I doubt it.
enforcement of board policy would be appropriately delegated to or handed to the chair. However, it's the enforcement of laws, regulations, and ordinances that I'm uncomfortable with the language of.
Okay, so you're comfortable with board policy?
Yes.
And who would enforce that? The chair?
He's comfortable if we decide we want the chair to take on that role. The chair does not currently have that role, but it sounds like state statute. I mean, they don't say board policy anywhere in 59.12, but they think there's something about orders. And the policy maybe is like an order. I don't know.
Keep good order. Well, that's where you get into the question of, drawing the line between micromanagement and on the one hand, I would think that the board chair would be enforcing board policy. The administrator would enforce all rules regarding to personnel management. All the other duties and responsibilities that he has, including recruitment and hiring and evaluation, discipline, termination of employees, whatever the case may be. He's the guy to be scared of around here as far as employers are concerned. The county chair should not be walking into a room and firing someone. And there's a process for the administrator in terms of dealing with employees and involving committees if necessary in a due process procedure.
That's probably a good way to distinguish it. The administrator is in charge of enforcing policy for employees, and who's in charge of enforcing policy for county board members? I think that's the question we're trying to answer. Or should the county board chair be in charge of enforcing policy for county board members?
That's
Unequivocally, yes. Unequivocally, yes, for county board member.
And he would consult, of course, with Corporation Counsel and with the Ethics Committee or whatever other committee may have some relevance to the issue, I would think.
What do people think? Do you think we should give this responsibility to the? Yep.
Mr. Chair, I'm kind of reading this as take care of all federal, state, and local laws. I look at that as not pertaining to only county government. So there are some statutes and laws regarding how to handle, stuff in different committees that regarding county government, not stuff that's general laws that we have to obey as citizens. That those laws, I think the meaning of this is just pertaining to local county governments.
Not all federal laws, just the federal laws that would
that
apply
mandate
to,
for, like, let's say Health and Human Services has some
Yes.
federal.
and there are some.
Yeah, it provides that oversight. I don't know if fall underneath the county administrator or the county board chair.
Okay, so let's say that the Nutrition Advisory Council, which is one of the committees of the county board that does have federal regulations tied to it, let's say that they are not following the federal regulation. Who's in charge of enforcing that?
That would be the board chair.
So then let's say there's a Parks Commission is not following state, not picking on Parks Commission for any reason. Say they're not following a state statute. Who's in charge of enforcing them following that state statute?
That would depend on the statute.
Well, they have a statute, just, I'll take land conservation because Supervisor Luck knows that one really well. It's a specific section of state statute that lists out all our responsibilities. Or law enforcement committee, they're supposed to do an annual inspection of the jail. Who's in charge of enforcing that happens?
Ideally, again, the board chair. And if the reading of it is that the pertaining to county government is all inclusive, rather than modifying simply part of the sentence, then I would be comfortable with that, so long as it's understood that the county board chair's duty to ensure that these laws are followed is exclusive to the purview of the function of county government. I recognize I'm just kind of slightly changing up the order of things. And I know that this is just the way the state statute is written. But if they were all written clearly, I would be out of a job. So
No, they're definitely not written clearly. You're safe.
I just want it to be clear that the board chair is not a law enforcement officer, and would have no enforcement authority. However, I'm also not entirely certain what powers the board chair has to see that these are enforced.
Yeah, Mr. Seat, go ahead.
There's the oath of office. Not that they,
You gotta speak into the mic.
there's the oath of office, which Mr. Wendell, I believe, obligates every county supervisor and some other employees to enforce the laws of the state and the state and federal laws, I believe, and to ensure the enforcement of those laws. I don't have the oath in front of me, so that seems to be kind of an overarching thing. Can you help me with that?
So the proposed language taken in the light most favorable to the position of adopting it would be that the county board chair ensures that each department, each county board member, each part of the county government is functioning in accordance with all laws and statutes and regulations. If that is the understanding of this committee and the board, if this is eventually recommended, then I'm comfortable moving forward with that, so long as there's no misunderstanding that the board chair is not a law enforcement officer, that overseeing this enforcement is by ensuring that the proper authority is exercising their enforcement authority.
So that means there has to be a system of oversight to ensure that federal and state laws are complied with. And that would be, I suppose, the responsibility of the administrator.
Mr. Severson, go ahead.
I remember when I was a new board member, Mr. Seep and Ms. Gentis may know, county didn't want to pay a bill at one point in time that was mandated by state statute that we pay. Want to pay because we had some problems with our finances, or we were low, it was costing too much. And there was a few supervisors at the time that were saying, no, we're not going to pay it. We're just not going to pay it. And then we were told that we could be in contempt of court if that was to happen, if we did not follow that statute, that we were mandated to follow that. Right? Then that would have to be taken up, I believe, by the DA as the chief enforcement officer of the county.
Contempt can be criminal or civil.
Yeah.
So one of the two of us would be knocking on the door.
Well, that's a good example of, and did the county board chair step in, or what happened?
Well, once that, if I remember correctly, but once that was saying that we could be held in contempt, and we ended up going ahead with the resolution and in favor of paying that responsibility that we had. But I do believe that the next steps, if we didn't, then I think the DA would have to come in and do something.
Subject to apply either by state or federal statute.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
So I think we just need to decide today, do we want to add this language to our county board chair responsibilities or not?
Well, yeah, I make just
I'm
a short.
me personally, I'm in favor of it because I think sometimes what happens here in Richland County government is no one's responsible, or there's a lot of finger pointing. And because we haven't given this role to anyone, it falls to no one a lot of times. So that's why I like the idea of this. I think board policies should be in there too, though. So So I kind of like 6A. And I don't think that any county board chair, and if we need to write it, I don't know how to write it, that they're not a law enforcement officer, but I mean, they don't write that in Bayfield County. I'm assuming the Bayfield County chair is not trying to take the sheriff's job up there,
Mr. Chair, quickly.
But here, hold on. Let's see what Supervisor Luck and Supervisor Cosgrove think. Some other opinions.
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, when I was reading it, I interpret take care that they're enforced doesn't mean that you're the one doing the enforcing. To me, it sounds more like if you find something's out of order, you report it to whoever it is that has the authority to enforce it. So, and I'm with you. I agree that I think sometimes when we don't assign things, nothing happens and things get overlooked because it's not assigned to anyone. It's nobody's job to make sure it's happening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cosgrove.
If he's talking, I can't hear it.
That battery. Yeah, I agree with all of those comments. And I would go so far as to make the motion that we do bullet point A, or add board policy in there at some point.
Okay, we got
The local laws.
Okay, we got a motion by Cosgrove to go with 6A and add board policy. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Okay, so second by Luck. Further discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Seat?
If I were chair, I think I would want the council advice of an executive committee or a personnel and finance committee rather than stand alone with the decisions.
Okay, Mr. Severson?
I don't know if it pertains exactly to the motion, but what I was saying, to reiterate, there was an instance younger where there was a quorum at a public meeting of another committee, and somebody reported that, and they had to report that to the DA, and then that's up to the DA then whether they want to take action on if the violation happened to either prosecute or whatever. So that's where I'm thinking the DA's somewhere in this mix of our stuff here. Because if we appoint our county corporation counsel, he can't come and enforce us, I don't think. And the same thing with the administrator. So I think the DA is our check here, our check and balance. I may be wrong.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and take a vote on this so we can keep moving. Let's see, let's do a roll call vote on this one, Ms. Dahl.
Mine working?
Yes, it is. Loud and clear.
Yes.
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 I can't hear her, but did she say Luck?
Yeah, not yet. Carrie Seaver, we just did Sean was yes. We had Cosgrove as yes. Carrie Severson
Yes.
and Melissa Luck,
Yes.
all voting yes.
Okay, so we got 5 in favor, so that does pass. Let's move on to miscellaneous. 7A, such other powers and duties as are set forth in county ordinances or resolutions. And then 7B, direct supervisors to attend meetings of a county board commission where they are not a member. That's actually in our current board rules. I don't know if we need to change 7B or 7A.
You just include A and B.
Say that again.
Just include A and B.
Well, B is already there. That's in our.
Just leave B and add A to it too.
You think we should add A?
Just make it a broad scope.
Yeah. Well, in 7A, we'd basically be adding it to what we just passed for 6A, correct? So it'd actually be just adding ordinances and resolutions to the other one. Okay, so let's take that as a motion by Severson. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Second by Cosgrove. Any discussion on that? The effect of this motion would we be adding county ordinances and resolutions to 6A. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, that motion carries. Under 8, we can give the power to or the responsibility, look at it either way, sometimes it's not fun, to administer oaths to persons required to be sworn concerning any matter submitted to the board or a committee of the board or connected with our powers or duties. So a couple counties do that, and state statute allows that we can give that.
How are we currently doing that?
How do oaths currently work? Is that you, Clerk Kalish?
I believe so, myself or the judge.
Okay, so do we really need a county board chair to be in the mix?
I don't know why we would need that personally, but
Okay. Want to argue for that? Okay, let's keep moving on then. Section 9, recruitment for vacancies. So the only place I found this, it was in St. Croix County. They give the responsibility to their county board chair to seek candidates and make recommendations for candidates in vacant districts. Appoints with the approval of the county board a qualified elector and resident of the supervisory district in which a vacancy exists.
We have a current way that we handle that too, don't we? Is that listed on here?
We don't have it anywhere in our rules, but I know Mr. Langrick, you did that for vacant. Were you in charge of that, or were you, Mr. Kalish?
Clerk Vlasic, I think, actually posted last session when we had vacancies on the county board.
yeah, so there's 3 vacancies for 3 districts that will be up for election in April.
So
So
that's not it.
vacancies meaning like
That's-
people not voted in, like this is after the election, we're talking about a vacancy, right?
empty county board
Okay,
seats.
yes,
Yep.
right.
And I think when we had a mid-session vacancy as well, and if memory serves, we posted out and made a public notification of
Yes.
that vacancy.
I believe that's correct.
When Supervisor Ruth Williams, when she passed away during session, we advertised the paper and then people filed their application or rather recommendation that they would like to be appointed. And it was given to the board chair and then we as a board put it on there.
So does anyone want the county board chair to have this responsibility? Or to me, it seems a little bit like a conflict because the county board chair could then like go out and recruit people that are going to always agree with them. No, and so I wonder if maybe it should be a little more neutral. Like
Yeah.
the clerk isn't. Yep, Mr. Seat.
I think in that process that Kerry was describing, that when a letter of interest was submitted by one or more folks, that seems to me that the chair counsel was either I believe the committee on committees, and based upon their review, he had final authority to make the appointments, and I think they had some input and recommendation. All that, Kerry?
Spot being advertised and that
Yes.
I think we may have voted on that as a board as a whole. Linda's behind you.
I think, and Ingrid can verify this because she's on, when Ingrid came on and there was one other, they applied to be on and they came to the county board and they gave their speech of why they wanted to be on the county board, and the county board voted upon who was going to be on the county board.
That's right, by majority vote.
Okay, so this is just about recruitment, and I don't think there's any interest in having the county board chair do the recruitment, so I think we can move right over this one. Section 10, referrals. So right now, our county board rule says that the county board chair assigns proposed resolutions and ordinances to the appropriate committee when there is doubt. And in Price County, they say the county board chair receives all requests and communications not specifically addressed to any committee or official of the county and refer such matters to the appropriate committee or official. Oh, by the way, I looked at all counties that had administrators, by the way, these county board rules. So this isn't like, the old model.
Yep.
So one thing I should say about 10B that I really don't like is I think it's too specific. It says assign proposed resolutions and ordinances, but a lot of times it's just a topic or an issue. And it's not clear which committee it's supposed to go to, and it kind of bounces around and there's a lot of confusion. I wish it would say something like assign, there you go, assign all matters to the appropriate committee when there is doubt.
So could we replace B with A? Just strike B from what we've got currently and replace it with A? A essentially says that.
Because under A, you're thinking like a request could be to deal with a particular complaint. Let's say someone has a complaint. We don't know which committee it should go to. So is that a request? Yeah, I can see that working. Yep, Mr. Severson.
In my opinion, I believe that the assigned proposed resolutions and ordinances to the appropriate committee, I think that comes out of the Wisconsin County's handbook, that black handbook, where it does say that a supervisor can write a resolution and bring forward with a co-signer and bring that forward to the board. And I think that is then directs the county board chair, then directs that resolution back to the appropriate committee for discussion. Instead of bringing it to the board, he says bring it over there so it gets hashed out more. Instead of just bringing the resolution from two supervisors to the board floor.
I thought that was in our county board rules, actually. No, this is separate from that issue. This is just about when there's doubt for proposed resolution or ordinance, what committee does it go to?
Chair will pick that.
The chair picks the committee, right?
Mr. Chair, with
Yep.
reference to Carrie's remark regarding,
That mic closer.
yes. Seems to me that in the past, we had an incident that's related to his remarks, kind of off the agenda, I think, maybe I'm wrong, that any county board supervisor can bring a resolution
Yeah,
to the board.
but that's not what we're talking
Yes,
about.
okay.
Yep, we're just talking about referrals. So what do folks want to do with this one? Should we just adopt 10A or should we strike proposed resolutions and ordinances and replace it with all matters in 10B?
I like that. The replacement.
Okay, well, let's say I'll make the motion, how I just stated it. Please second it.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, that carries. Relationships, internal and external. So right now, we don't really say in any of our county board rules or anywhere what we want the county board chair to be doing relationships wise. The only place I did find it was in the county administrator job description. It says that the county board chair acts as the chief elected spokesperson and coordinates with the administrator, who's the chief administrative spokesperson for the county. I thought that was a kind of clear way of putting it. We oftentimes stumble over ourselves when we say who's the spokesperson for the county. And this spells it out. County board chair is the chief elected spokesperson, and the administrator is the chief administrative spokesperson. And then these other counties, they have all sorts of other stuff. Like Sawyer County, they say that county board chair represents the county at legislative hearings, conventions. They may delegate that to other people though at the county. Same thing in Price County. St. Croix County is representing the county at ceremonial events or functions. So what do people think about this one?
Mr. Chairman, I've seen occasions where both the chair and the administrator stand together, spokesman, to the press or what have you. So I think sometimes maybe the chair and the administrator sort of need to work it out as to who's going to speak or whatever. So.
Yep, so that's kind of like 11E is what you're talking about. And I think the question is, should we add that to their official duties? Make this clear. that we want the county board chair being our chief elected spokesperson? Do we want them to speak on behalf of the county board?
Yes, on behalf of the county board. I can see some instances where the administrator falling for the county, as far as the board itself. County board chair should be our person, or his designee in his absence, or the vice chair.
For example, I give an example. Suppose the clerk is caught embezzling. Who's the spokesman? The administrator, right?
Mr. Seep, I can take that one. There would be no comment due to an ongoing investigation.
Okay, so I think.
Mr.
Sorry,
Chair,
Mr. Clerk.
Yep, go ahead, Ms. Luck.
I just want to say that I think B is also important. I mean, I know that our current chair has designated me as the representative of our county at the Wisconsin Counties Association annual meeting. And I think it's important that make the statement that we do want our chair to represent us, and if they don't, they need to be designating people in their place.
Agree with that. Mr. Chair.
Okay.
That kind of goes in line too with like, we'll have President Thompson come into town in a few weeks for the campus, and I believe Chair Brewer is going to attend that and then make a small speech on behalf of the county.
Okay, so I think it sounds like 11B pretty much covers it all, except it doesn't say that the county board chair is the designated spokesperson of the county board. So I wonder if maybe somehow we could add that to 11B, because 11B also talks about how they may delegate to other board members the role of the spokesperson for the county board. Maybe somehow, if we can get those two melded together somehow. I hear a lot of agreement on this one. We just have to work out the details. So Supervisor Luck, I think, can we take it as a motion from you for 11B?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't
Got
know,
that
could
one?
you just add E as the second sentence to it?
Okay, so let's do it that way. A motion to basically do 11B and 11E. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I will make that motion.
Okay, there's a second for that?
I'll second it.
Mr. Seat, okay,
And Mr. Langrick, do you have any comment on that?
okay. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Say no. Okay, that motion carries. Number 12, removals. In Sawyer County, they give the ability for the county board chair to remove appointed members with approval by a majority of those board members voting. And 12B, county officers, this is state statute, county officers appointed by the chairperson of the county board may be removed at pleasure by the chairperson. So we debated this a little bit when we talked about the county board chair appointing people. And we thought that there should be some sort of process where the county board confirms that, or the person who might be being removed gets to resign first. We had a lengthy discussion about this, but then state law says that that county officers, which county board members are also officers under state statute, I believe. Let's see if I'm wrong on that. Those people appointed by the chairperson may be removed at the pleasure of the chairperson. So there's no county board confirmation involved in that the way state law is written. It says that the county board chair may remove.
But as county board supervisors, we're not necessarily appointed by the county board chairperson. We're elected. That would be the exception.
I would say though, we're talking in context, I'm viewing it as like a standing committee where then you would be appointed and confirmed, but yeah, not to the actual seat on the county board.
No, they could never remove someone from the county board, but they could say, well, I'm not going to have you on finance anymore. I'm not going to have you on the library board anymore.
Don't we address that in Rule 6? County board rules? What does that say, Melissa? Didn't we deal with that before?
Oh, that
Removal
was
of
the
a
one
committee member?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, all it says is that you report it to the county board chair, but it doesn't go into detail as to what happens then. That's my recollection.
I think here we just need to decide if we want to give that authority to the county board chair.
I think we want to make it clear that we should actually remove them.
Yes.
And not just reporting it to the chair, but actually remove them.
But you said we, and this is the county board chair.
Right. Well, as a chair of a committee, I reported to our chair that I had a member not showing up.
And do you think the county board chair should
nothing
be able
happened.
to, do you think the county board chair should be able to make that removal?
I think that's fine, but yeah, I mean, I guess he did make the decision not to do it. So yeah, I mean, I think it has to ride with someone. So it might as well be the chair.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, there, 1710, the appointed by chairperson of the county board is overridden by the administrator statute.
But
So-
the administrator doesn't appoint people to all committees. We're talking about like standing committees.
Right, so referencing this statute would not be appropriate. If we're talking
Oh.
about just reorganizing the makeup of the board and committees, that would be contained within the rules of the document, the rules of the board. It would not necessarily be the removal of an officer. An officer in this context would be someone like, well, not the sheriff because he's an elected officer, but
You'd have like a sergeant in arms kind of an assignment? Is that what you're?
sure.
parliamentarian would be you.
So county board members are not officers? What you're saying?
They are, so if you look at the statute, 1709 is removal of elective county officers. So county board members would be governed by a different statute if we're talking about taking them off the board entirely. If we're just talking about committee assignments, that's
all we're
not
talking about.
governed by statute. You can, I'll decide.
So you're saying that this is the wrong statute to use?
Correct.
Got it.
because
Okay,
Any,
I understand now.
any officer appointed under that statute is properly appointed by the administrator at this point.
Okay. So maybe 12A does make more sense how they do it in Sawyer County.
Mr. Chair.
Yep, Mr. Seat.
I asked Mr. Wendell, did I pronounce your name right?
Windle.
Wendell. Rhymes with Wendell, almost.
I always say it rhymes with swindle without the S, but then I became a lawyer and
So,
got a bad enough rep.
so, isn't there a due process to generally like an ethics board that can provide for the removal of a board member? It seems to me that we went through this once.
We don't have that in our ethics ordinance.
Through our
It's
rules
not-
of board?
It's not in there. That's why we're discussing this, is because we do not have a process to make it happen.
Can it happen through an ethics board?
From the
Oh.
board entirely,
Yes.
there is, that would be governed under state statute.
Yeah,
That was
17.
1709 as
So only the electors can remove them by
That's not-
recall.
We're not talking about, that's not what we're talking about here. This
Oh.
is just removal of people from committees. So
Oh,
in-
well, that's easy.
in Sawyer County, the language is remove appointed committee members with approval by majority of those board members voting. So I think that's what we want to do. And by board members, we mean the whole county board. We don't just mean the members of a particular committee.
Yes.
Right?
Well,
Say that again?
The language in Sawyer County says that the county board chair may remove appointed committee members with approval by majority of those board members voting. I said the entire county board.
Yeah, I think you would want to specify that it's a majority of the majority vote of the county board versus
yeah.
those board members voting, as it might be inferred that the
Okay,
board
so-
members on that.
I'm gonna try to say it once and see if I'll get it all right. So this would be giving the responsibility to the county board chair to remove appointed committee members with approval by a majority of the county board.
I move to approve that.
Okay,
Second.
motion by Seat, second by Cosgrove. Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 The people who made the motion second, I'm assuming you're in favor too. Okay, so that motion passes. Section 13, we're getting close to the end here, making plowing a lot of new ground today. Seating arrangements. Right now, we want the county board chair to sit at the head table, and we give them the responsibility of altering seating arrangements at county board meetings. Anyone want to change those? Okay, then we'll keep moving on to section 14. This is about signatures. We can allow them to countersign all county orders. I don't know what a county order is. A resolution.
No.
Some nodding from our lawyer here.
It's odd that they chose that word. I
That's
don't,
state statute. Maybe it's old language.
I think it's referring to anything that the county is doing. And if that's the way the state statute reads.
Okay. Okay, so other counties, they have a few slightly different ways of looking at this. One is contracts in Ozaki, one is resolutions and price and orders. And then Sawyer County is ordinances and resolutions
Mr. Chair,
where required.
I apologize. So I'm looking at the statute now, and it does actually say the chairperson shall countersign all ordinances of the board.
Yes, we already went over that. Yep, we're good on that one. This is just about, do we want to add other things that they sign?
No, the purchase order? To buy a $60,000 machine?
That'd be a lot of signatures for.
Well, I'm wondering what the definition of order is.
It's just a clerical error. It should read ordinances.
It's up for Ozaki County to figure out. Yeah.
Oh, state statute doesn't say orders.
59.12 sub.
Got that wrong?
Sub 1, second, third sentence, chairperson shall countersign all ordinances of the board.
Right, but there's another section that says they may. That's where I think I got it.
I think the clerk and the
Okay.
This is,
treasurer.
we don't even need to debate this if we don't want to do it, you know, and I think that's the main question before us today. Do we want to give them additional signatory responsibilities? I'm not hearing anyone pipe up with that, so we'll just keep moving on. And then section 15, voting at county board meetings. We currently have a county board rule number 2 that says the county board chair shall vote on a call of ayes and noes, which is odd language, I think. County Board Rule 9 says that they may excuse members from voting on a roll call vote. And then these other ones are more just about whether or not the county board chair has the right to vote. I don't think that's really, I don't think anyone ever questions that. We do roll call votes and county board chair votes, so I guess I'm not understanding why others suggest to do that, but our language is a little weird. Vote on a call of ayes and noes. Call for a vote on ayes and noes. And I wish it said abstentions sometimes because I think people want to abstain and we're always tripping over ourselves about that one. I've never heard the county board chair excuse someone from voting.
You can be recused.
Or your mic's not on. I don't.
Pertain to like if there was a county supervisor and they had a family member that works for the county that they maybe use health insurance or vice versa, or spouse, whatever, for a wage thing, that then they could be moved out of there or like excused. Conflict of interest type stuff.
Sure.
I think that's what that pertains to.
Yep. So, is there any desire to change any language on this one?
Well, Mr. Chairman, there has been a long history of debate over the the right to abstain. And there was an argument made by the previous corporation council that you could not abstain, that you had to vote because it's a public body and you're dealing with public money and so forth. But others have argued that you do have a constitutional right. I don't know the answer, Mr. Wendell.
I would side with the second, retain your right to freedom of expression. Non-vote is still expression. It is an equally valid response as a yes or a no.
This is still on. All right. And the county's association attorney, what's his name?
Andy
Pat-
Phillips.
Andy Phillips has opined on that. Yes, you do have a right to abstain. You can't force somebody to do something. You can never force anybody to do anything.
Good point. Good.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion because this has been an irritating one to me, so we'll see if you all want to agree with me or not, but I'd like to change 15D so that it says call for a vote of ayes and noes and allow abstentions. And then strike 15E from our county board rules.
Did you say and or abstentions?
Well, if we say that they have to call for a vote of ayes and noes and or abstentions, would they have to say, they have to
Or
for
abstentions, I
abstentions?
guess. Just say or abstentions. Or abstentions.
They would go, usually they would say, all those in favor signify by saying aye, aye. Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Those abstain?
Or you think maybe they should ask every time?
There was
I don't know if you
another
have to.
debate where I'm less certain of the outcome as to whether or not you need to affirmatively state that you are abstaining. That one I don't have the solid guidance on, but I could research it if so directed.
I would go to Andy Phillips. He talked
Fine.
about this. I've watched one of his podcasts on that.
I have another important question related to this procedure. What about the right to pass on a vote? Abstain or pass on the first round of votes and come back and vote again? That happens sometimes. Because that would be by board rule.
Okay, well, I'm fine with ayes, noes, and abstentions.
Pass.
Just, I'm not okay with passes. I think that's gonna create chaos for our poor clerk.
I'll second.
Okay, so my motion was to call for a vote of ayes, noes, and abstentions. And then strike 15E.
Hear it.
Okay, so motion by myself, second by Cosgrove. All those in favor, unless there's any other discussion, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Okay, that carries. So we got through all 15. It's amazing. We went through a lot. So thanks for your patience in going through all that
For all your hard work.
weeks ago. I don't even remember it now. Okay, so that, and I think we can move on. I think we should push the vice chair stuff to the side just for the moment because we did quite a bit of work there. Let's go to agenda item number 7, process for running board chair and running for board chair and vice chair. So one of those webinars that the counties association held in the past couple months, I noticed some problems with what we previously had adopted. So in January, we adopted a motion to have this 7-point process on the cover sheet be our process for running for board chair and vice chair, and having this all drafted into county board rules. So someone asked Andy Phillips, are there open meeting issues related to candidates for county board chair and vice chair campaigning for those positions? He said the election of the board chair is an item of business for the board. If that item is discussed outside the confines of county board meetings, the county board is inviting potential violations of the open meetings laws. He recommended limiting conversations outside of the county board meeting, so the organizational meeting, to make the campaigning process as clean as possible. So I thought I better bring this to you all and say, I think my opinion is we should get rid of step 5, where this is what you are bringing up, is always happens here. I think it happens in a lot of counties, but step 5 was candidates for county board chair and vice chair may directly contact county board members elect to campaign for the position. So that's my opinion. What do you all think about it?
Oh,
Go ahead, Mr. Seat.
been my experience on the board that every time there's been a county board election, candidates have generally got a call from one or the other or both asking for my support. So just some campaigning has been done.
Then on the related thing was with step 7. Step 7, we just had at the organizational meeting, nominations shall be made and seconded, and the election of the chair and vice chair shall follow the verbiage already defined in county board rules. And so he suggested, Andy Phillips suggested specifying in the county board rules if they are allowed to make a speech, distribute literature, give a PowerPoint presentation, et cetera, at the organizational meeting. So I was thinking if we are going to get rid of step 5, then we need to be able to, there needs to be some way to bring this out into the open.
Mr. Chair?
Do it in front of everyone. Yep, go ahead.
We're still having them fill out the questionnaire where they answer some questions. Is that correct?
That's right. So we have 2 questions under step 3 on the
Right.
cover sheet.
So instead of people having to, this should forego people having to call because you've already made your statements. And I'm assuming that those will be published with our county board materials for when we have the organizational meeting, meaning they're public documents so we won't be violating any open meeting laws as long as we provide whatever they say to the public as well as all our board members, correct?
I think so, yeah. I mean, we have the 2 questions that this committee already approved going forward to the county board for this. And
right. So, I mean, it really should make it so that they don't need to be having those one-on-one conversations. They can save it for the board floor.
How do you enforce that?
how do we enforce? I think similar to how we enforce how we self-enforce for not violating quorums for our committee meetings and our county board meetings.
Well,
So for
Mr.
example, like Mr. Severson called me about an issue that's on our agenda today. I didn't call you back about it because you called me also because I know that would violate the quorum issues. So I think that's how we would have to self-enforce. We'd have to say, I can't talk to you about that. We gotta wait.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Mr. about that. I do not believe that one person calling another, since it's less than the majority, is a violation of the walking quorum. I don't know about what the appropriateness legally is for a candidate calling board members and asking for support. But
The pluralization is the issue.
pardon?
The pluralization is the issue. If one person were to talk to another person, that's a conversation. If a potential board chair or vice chair were to contact multiple people, that would then potentially be a violation of the walking quorum. And in addition to any internal penalties that they may suffer, that could open up the potential for civil or criminal liability under state statute. That would be a referral to the DA for certain.
So it has to do with the number of people.
Discussed with sufficient number of people that it would warrant a quorum, then you would be at risk. My recommendation is just to not do this at all. Like, go with the forms, fill it out. That's where you can make your piece ahead of time. If you are absolutely insistent on calling someone ahead of time to campaign, just call one person.
There might not be anything illegal about Mr. Lopez responding to
Well, we have 5 people on this committee. I couldn't talk to you and Mr. Severson about it before the meeting. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
So with the county board chair and
11 of the county board members, you couldn't talk to 10, I guess, and not.
assuming
I
none of
didn't
those.
want to
would-
do the math. So just safest bet, not do it.
Well, I think if we pass this and put it in the county board rules that go to the county board in March, the expectation will be set that candidates are not calling around to every county board member like they have been.
I've seen a ruling from the Department of Justice that there are a number of people, 2 or more, who can influence the vote party. Could be a violation of quorum.
It would be fact specific, so the general
Yes,
recommendation is just
that's
why
true.
risk it and just don't do it.
So I guess the question is, if we just assume that we're okay striking number 5, then under number 7, do we want to allow the county board chair candidates to get up and give a supplemental speech to the questions that they answered? Do we want to allow county board members to ask questions of the county board chair and vice chair? You know, so the things that happen on the phone, do we want to bring that out into the county board, onto the county board floor, or at least give people an opportunity to do that if they choose to have that conversation in front of everyone else? That's my question. That's what I'm wondering under step 7, should we set some rules? That's what Attorney Phillips recommended. He said, make it clear what you can do so that in the event that there is a race, you know, it's real clear so that it's fair to everybody.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
I'm wondering if we don't want to eliminate 5, but state it that they may not directly contact county board members, just making it clear that we don't want to have any kind of even the thought that we would be violating open meeting laws. Instead of eliminating that, do we need to keep it in there to say that that is not okay because we don't want to worry about violating open meeting laws? And secondly, I think that we could just set some sort of time limit, but I definitely think each person should be able to speak at the meeting. And if they want to hand out some kind of material that it becomes part of the public record, that I'm not opposed to that, but I certainly think they should be able to speak and people should be able to ask questions, but with a time limit.
Well, it's nice to have that rule, but human nature and human ambition being what it is pretty hard to confident that rule will be followed. Show me a county where it is.
Well, I guess my only concern about keep saying that they may not contact county board members is that what if they do just contact 1 or 2? Are we saying that they can't do that?
You could word it that they may not contact a quorum of the board, but the problem you run into is that situation where you call 5 people, but each of those 5 people call another 5 people, and then you violated but you didn't personally do it, but it becomes an open meetings law violation because they've talked to other people about it. So I mean, I think we should just say, don't do it.
I agree.
Okay, so should we take that as a motion on number 5 to insert the word not between may and directly? Supervisor Luck?
Yes, I will make that motion.
Okay, and
Second.
a second by Cosgrove. Mr. Seat?
Can't prohibit somebody from calling 1 or 2 or 3. Do that. Not making a violating quorum.
I would
Calls 2.
would say, and correct me if I'm wrong here, if you have it in part of your rules of saying that we're prohibiting candidates that want to run for chair to reach out, then again, it's a self-enforced thing, and it gives Supervisor Langrick then an opportunity to say, I get it, Supervisor Wendell, you're running, but, you know, part of our rules is I don't have to listen to your petition, and then, you know, because I might have Supervisor Wendell and Supervisor Dahl both calling me and trying to get, okay, who you voting for, kind of a thing, and that playing that whole game. So if you did have it on there as a, you can't do this, then it would give you an out as a supervisor to not entertain that from another supervisor.
And just to follow up on that, it could be stated clearly that violation of any of the above rules would render you ineligible to run for the position.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Severson? No? I guess I'm okay with the motion. As long as we followed up on 7 with spelling out what the campaigning will be. So I'm in support of it.
So, be clear, what are we saying?
So this is a motion to keep step number 5 and insert the word not between may and directly. So the sentence would read, candidates for county board chair and vice chair may not directly contact county board members elect to campaign for these positions. Yeah.
Can any of the county board members ask another person that they would like to run if they would be willing to run? The other way around.
That would not be campaigning, and
That's recruiting. No, and this would not cover that.
or even a county board member could call another if there's a relationship and say, hey, I may run for county board chair. What do you think? That would just be a conversation. It's, I'm running, please vote for me. That really becomes.
But if he says I may run,
Then that's a question and a conversation. That's a different thing.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a roll call vote on this one.
On 5, correct?
That's just on 5. This is just to keep step 5 and insert the word not between may and directly.
Okay, this time is Sean Murphy Lopez.
Aye.
Then we have Chad Cosgrove,
Aye.
Gary Severson,
Yes.
Melissa Luck,
Yes.
Don Seep,
yes.
all voting aye.
Okay, so that motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Dole. And then step 7, anyone want to take a shot at that one? Supervisor Luck, would you be so kind?
Sure. I would say that what I'd like feedback before I make it is how long do we think is an appropriate amount? Like 5 minutes, 10 minutes for each person? I mean, it's a pretty big decision.
I think 10,
10 minutes?
10
Okay.
minutes for speech and questions?
I think.
Do
Sounds
we,
good to me.
yeah.
They filled out their
Yeah, I mean-
questions ahead of time, so everybody really has a little bit of a background on what they're thinking, so.
Right.
I think it'll
Right.
take-
Okay. So my motion would be at the organizational meeting, nominations shall be made and seconded. The election of the chair shall follow after each candidate is allowed 15 or 10 minutes to give a well, I don't know. Do we want to say give a presentation or to speak and answer questions? How about just to speak and answer questions?
Okay, so the language would be the motion to insert the words, each candidate is allowed 10 minutes to speak and answer questions. Is there a second for that? Second by Seep. So a motion by Luck, second by Seep. Any further discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So that carries unanimously. Want to add something before we move on?
Can a supervisor call a candidate and talk to them about why and ask them why they would want to run? So let's say Supervisor Brewer is running and I want to call him and say, Supervisor Brewer, why are you interested in running for county board chair? Can you give me a little background? Could he talk? And then 13 other people now are calling him and asking him the same question. Does that constitute
The opportunity will be present at the organizational meeting, and the best practice would be to simply ask it in that public forum.
Okay, and of course, this is just a recommendation by us to draft it into rules, which will come back here in March and then go to the county board. So until then, I guess if you want to do this, it could be a violation of open meetings laws, but But our recommendation is to not do that at this point, at least coming from this committee. Okay, so let's move on to agenda item number 8, committee restructuring. So Supervisor Luck, I'm going to hand it off to you for you to start, and then I'll fill in.
You are, huh? If you want to go back, just go back to the diagram you just had up. I think that's the place to start. So, we took into consideration, Sean and I sat down and took into consideration all of the conversations we had last time. And this is what we came up with for a hybrid. We did place veterans and Pine Valley under HHS. We had a long conversation about, is that a lot for one committee to take on? But the conversation that we had really revolved around if we become more policy driven and get out of the day-to-day minutia that takes up so much of our committee time, we really should be able to handle all of those departments reporting up through that committee. So that's really, I think, the biggest difference between this hybrid version and the second version that we had before. So I don't have a whole lot to say other than we took what you said and this is what we came up with. So I don't know if you have questions or concerns about this now in this current structure. Is no one talking, or is no one's mic on?
No one's talking. There's a lot of thinking going on.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty. I've been able to join here. Can you hear me?
Great,
Yep.
we can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Linda, Mrs. Gentis, under the, and I don't have the diagram in front of me, but memory serves, the college, the Richland campus committee winds up under what? Can someone help me there?
Public Works and Infrastructure.
So we actually split the UW Platteville. We took food service out and placed it with Health and Human Services, since food service is so closely tied to our nutrition program.
Right.
And then we put the UW Platteville Richland, essentially the maintenance part of that. That's under Public Works and Infrastructure.
Right. So in my opinion, that would change quite dramatically the role of the Richland UW committee as it's presently handled. Okay, and I don't know if the way it's handled now was due to any planning, but certainly in the intervening 40 some odd years that it's been around, it has changed to more than simply a committee that handles the real estate. And it would seem to me that this basically places it back to a committee handling the land and the buildings. So I would like Linda to comment on that, if she would, please.
That is one of the things I'm here because I'm very concerned about that. It isn't just maintenance of buildings. We're also concerned about the programming, everything else that runs there. So I don't see how you're going to do that if you're just having it under maintenance.
Well, that's a question, and I would throw that to all committee members for their thoughts on it.
It's a big issue here because you're really diluting quite a bit of actual things that are going on in committees.
Right. So I'm not running the meeting. I'm just throwing this out for a question.
No, thank you for those thoughts. So other thoughts from folks? Want everyone's honest feedback and opinions on this.
So my question is that you have 4 committees and how many people would be on those committees and how would you do that?
You could scroll to the next page, Mr. Langlet. Supervisor Luck, can you walk us through that?
I didn't know I was going to be doing this.
Sorry, if you don't mind, I just need a little break from my voice because I gotta go through that other document too and give my voice a break. And I know you wrote this part, so.
Right. So each committee, so there are certain requirements. You know, several of our committees have requirements for citizen members as well. So we were looking at both the supervisor positions as well as citizen members. So, you know, Pine Valley has a citizen member and HHS has 3 citizen members. So that is why you see 7 supervisors and 4 citizen members on Health and Human Services. And then we split up in order to get, the goal was to have each person, each supervisor, except for the chair and vice chair, each other supervisor would have 2 committees. The vice chair and the chair would be automatic members of the executive committee. And then all our supervisors have 2 standing committees each. So that's how it worked out with 9 supervisors on each one. Now, there is no reason why a public works committee can't deal with issues other than physical buildings. That, you know, there's no reason why those issues can't still come forward and be talked about in that committee. The chair of that committee, you know, will be the one, or potentially be the one, deciding what issues come forward and which departments are speaking about what. So your concern that it would be diluted out, I don't think that that's true. I think that as policy issues come forward, that committee would address it just like they do now. You just you're just not the only people in the room. There's other people in the room. That it's just like an LEJC meeting where we have 5 or 6 different departments reporting to us now. Each department takes turns and bring forward the issues that are important for that particular department. And that would be the same scenario now, only hoping that we would be more focused on policy and not necessarily the day-to-day. Do you need me to say more?
No, that's
That makes
good.
sense?
Oh, that's good.
Yep, we're all just
You
thinking.
have other, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, whoever's running this now.
Go ahead,
Chad, you're on the
Mr. Brewer.
UW committee, are you not?
Yeah, I am.
Well, why don't you weigh in on this?
Are we discussing specifically the fact that UW food service and the campus are being separated? Is that one of the concerns, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and
my concern is that to me, placing it under public works, is that the broad category it'll be under?
That's where the campus will be housed.
Kind of relegates it to a committee that deals with buildings and lawns and water, stuff like that. Not issues that Linda has put front and center as she wades through the issues facing the campus right now. Low enrollment, will it survive, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Public marketing for the community, these are all things that get discussed at that committee level. Not just is the building falling apart. It's
If I can comment on that. So part of this is going to tie to the language and the authorities that you want to establish through like a new committee structure document of saying what the expectations are then for these committees. Case in point with the UW campus committee, it's very slim on there on what the actual authorities and responsibilities are in that structure document.
The present language you're talking about, Clint, right?
Yes, correct.
Yes.
A lot of the focus points of the meetings now have kind of come from an evolved conversation with our tenants, essentially. But if you look back at like agreement language is essentially, I would argue based on the agreement that in fact should be the focus is really we're a landlord there and we should be keeping up the buildings and making sure the tenants are helping us keep the facility going. But I know that's not the way the conversations in the direction of that committee has went. So I guess my real thought is that you have to visualize too on what those structure languages are going to are going to say. And if I can have just one more conversation with our highway commissioner today, we kind of talked on this on, okay, how does this work with the highway committee that is very involved with understanding and managing the roads? Attorney Wendell involved with some emails and such. So when we change structure to a county administrator, a lot of those highway committee decisions that are being made really can be deferred now through an administrative chain and handled by a highway commissioner. But then how do you still make sure folks are transparent and understanding? My plan with this is, from an administrative staff, is I'm going to have to sit with these departments and say, you know, this is your block of time. You're going to have to come forward with a report that says, this is what I'm doing. You tell me to stop if you don't like it. This is my budget. And then these are really the couple of things that I need this body to consider and take action on. But otherwise, this is what I'm doing. You tell me to pump the brakes.
Okay, thank you for sharing all that. I want to read for everyone the language that we currently have for the UW Platteville Richland Committee, because this might bring some clarity. They provide oversight and advice regarding the operation, maintenance of all county buildings and lands covered in the agreement with the University of Wisconsin Center System that the county is responsible for. So in operation, I read, you're not only just looking at the maintenance of the buildings, but you're looking at the their tenant and how they're operating their programs. So my vision of how, if the committee decides that we want to further develop the committee structure document in line with this new way of laying it out, is that we're pulling language from UW Platteville Richland. We're taking that point C that I just read, and we're pulling it under public works and infrastructure. So it would still remain as operation and maintenance. Unless, of course, we want to remove the operation part, you know.
No, we want to make sure we have a tenant in those buildings.
Right.
But good feedback. This is the sort of feedback we want, you know, sort of conversation we want.
See, I think, if I may, the word operations has been given a very liberal interpretation currently. In the time I served on the UW Richland board, it also had quite a liberal interpretation. It went beyond the power plant and the air conditioning, and we actually got into how many students are enrolled this semester. What's the future look? And I know currently, under Linda's direction, that is those are major things covered in her agendas when she meets with the UW Richland people. So, just a point. I mean, if we have to, I think moving it to where we're intending to move it probably narrows that definition of operations and tightens it up to mean care and feeding of the buildings.
No, I do agree with what Supervisor Luck said. I still think those things could be discussed under this committee. However, I do also believe that this is a culture shift, not just for the UW Richland committee, but also for other committees I'm on, like Land Conservation and UW Extension. We hear a lot about all these little decisions that they're making, and it's just this, you know, it's this long update where we're supposedly approving bills, but the bills get paid whether we approve them or not, you know, and I think what this would do is really, it would tighten up those conversations about how the campus is doing, you know, and bringing those, and maybe there isn't time for a monthly update to discuss it, but those reports could still come forward. I think the main problem that we're dealing with right now is we talk about too much of the little stuff and not enough of the big stuff. And
True.
You know, like the campus and how is the campus doing and what can the community do to support the campus? What action can we actually take on that? And if they
And
had
that's what we're discussing.
and if they, well, I was on the committee for 2 years.
Yeah, but it's a lot broader now.
Well, and that's great. And then I think that'll cinch the conversations up so that they have to get to the point and try to, what policy can we get through the committee and the county board on promoting the campus? You know, so we can get that wide buy-in, because I agree with you, I'm a big supporter of the campus, but, you know, I sat in meetings for 2 years and I heard, you know, every, you know, negative thing and positive thing, and I just felt like we were spinning our wheels, you know, so, and I
Well,
don't,
I
I'm
think
not
it's
picking on,
changed, it's changed a lot since you've been on.
good, and that's,
But
no,
I also think this is, you know, I'm not against that we're cleaning this up and doing more policy. I just think you need to consider that you're now gonna have meetings with, you know, 20 people at the meetings always, and, it's gonna be difficult for people to get everything done. Because if you have all these committee people and all, you know, because we have, you know, 5 people there besides that, so every other committee is gonna have that many people. And I don't know where you're gonna meet for all your committees.
These are all good things to bring up, guys, so.
yeah, we haven't discussed meeting locations or any of that. I did get I talked to Adam Haiti at UW Extension, because he was kind of wondering, well, what are you all planning? And Adam, we're fortunate with him because he works in a bunch of neighboring counties, and this is the model we are looking at, he's more used to. You know, they do it in Monroe County, they do it in La Crosse County. I asked him, well, where are you combined? And he said, as long as we don't have to come and do all the things that we're doing right now at these meetings, and we're focusing more, that's what the other counties do. So I think that's part of the.
Chair.
Yep, Mr. Seat.
So I'm thinking about, you know, the relationship between property and grounds committee and this landlord committee sort of that we're talking about. What's that relationship?
Are you asking me a question or the chair?
Anyone?
Well, property right now just looks at the courthouse, is my understanding. And UW Richland looks at just the campus. And you would still continue to have our courthouse maintenance supervisor and say the dean of the campus, or other, I know there's other staff who come there too. You would still have, you would have those people coming to a similar meeting under this model if we decide to go forward with this. So the relationship right now, I think, is pretty separate. And I think the relationship of the future would be more like it is in LEJC, where you've got different department heads coming and listening to each other and kind of not being so separate. So I think this will bring more people together.
Sort of like a consortium.
Yep, LEJC is under public safety.
The only one added to public safety is emergency management, because that's a standalone committee. And does that need to be a standalone committee? Because that says that the chair and the vice chair need to be on there. Are they going to be on that public safety part?
So,
Oh, that's true.
Mr. Chair,
Good point. Yep, go ahead.
so emergency management, it is, I mean, that's a statutorily required body, but it does, the statutes don't state that the chair and vice chair have to be on that committee. So we can, I think we chose to put them in our committee structure document. We chose to make their members be the chair and vice chair.
That's right.
UW or Simon doesn't know.
Oh, and actually, so that's probably a good segue. So I'm just going to go ahead and walk through 8B right now, because yes, what happens to those other committees? So last time I walked everyone through this sort of like sorting process, and I think essentially this is a big part of the restructuring too. So I'll walk through each page. So step one, we have 2 columns. One is county board bodies with departmental oversight, and we have other bodies. So we've been mostly just talking about the ones on the left. But if you go to step 2.1, we have 3 joint bodies. And so these are what I'm thinking of as joint bodies of multiple government agencies. So I've got ambulance, economic development, and Simons highlighted because those are sort of unique beasts unto themselves. So in step 2.2, I took those three joint bodies and I moved them into their own column. They're kind of special and they got to be able to stay on their own, given our current agreements with other government agencies. Step 3.1 is removal. So part of what, most of what Melissa and I did over the past 2 weeks, we did meet about a week ago, but a lot of it was phone calls and researching and talking to all these department heads and people in the community who are involved with all these committees. So we found some additional ones over what we had last time after doing all this research. So we're bringing forward a recommendation, I think is how to say it, that the ones in red be eliminated and the ones in yellow be discussed or decided by this committee. So the ones to remove would be Administrator Transition Committee. And actually, if you just go ahead and go forward to step 3.2, the justification for each of these is in that next spreadsheet, 3.2. So that would be, yep, that one right there. Yes. So the Administrator Transition Committee is no longer meeting. The CDBG Housing Regional Board and Revolving Loan Board, we think those are done, but I've got a question off to Sandy Cook, who's the new Housing Authority Director, about those, just to confirm that. Citizen Participation Planning, I believe, is related to CDBG, and that's no longer meeting. I'll skip over the yellow ones. Continuous, I talked to Tracy Thorson. She said that was discontinued 5 years ago. Courthouse, and these are, by the way, all ones that are still in our committee structure document or are in our committee appointments document. Courthouse security, we don't have anything on our committee structure document, and Supervisor Luck is thinking this could go to public safety. Hidden Valleys, we removed that from our budget in 2022. Southwest Badger Regional Resource Conservation and Development Council is no longer meeting. And then Tri-County Airport Board of Appeals, no county involvement is needed with that particular body. There's still the Tri-County Airport Commission, but the Board of Appeals is separate. So I'm going to skip over those two in yellow for now. So step 3.3, that removes all those off to the side, red, and then they drop off the spreadsheet. Step 4.1 is consolidation, and so that's what we're really talking about when we talk about consolidating just these 18 committees. So that chart that we were looking at before just covers these 18 committees that have departmental oversight. Step 4.2 is trying to figure out which departments report to which of those committees. And with some, there's quite a few already, and others, most of them are just a one-to-one. One department reports to one county board body. And then last time we went through A, B, C. So this time we combined B and C into D. And so option D on here is just another way of looking at the chart that Supervisor Luck already showed us. And then step 5.1, so we do need additions through our research or through if we do this consolidation or restructuring. There's a couple of issues we need to take care of. So if you go to step 5.2, this is the supporting information for the additions. ADRC of Eagle Country Regional Board, Perry is our current representative there. Chapter 980, that has to do with people released from sex offender facilities. It's statutorily required. No supervisors are required to be on it, but we did make all those meetings public when this happened about a year or two ago. And this might come up again, Ms. Thorson told me. The fair and the park are mostly working committees, so we would need to somehow address how those working committees could keep going. So I just roughly threw out fair advisory and park advisory for additional committees we might need. Traffic Safety Commission already meets, so we just need to add that. That's a staff-only committee. And then Veteran Service Commission. Mr. Seat, this is your baby. It's on here. The 3-citizen one. Yep, that's right. That's right. Then step 6.1 is I tried to categorize those other bodies, the ones on the right. into two different groups, advisory bodies and special appointment bodies. I don't know if this is the perfect way to do it, but it's the way it is, at least I laid it out. And then step 7.1 is reporting. So who would each of these committees report to? And I think there might be a little debate, especially about the joint bodies, that column. But most counties that have done the restructuring, they make it clear what committee or commission or board goes to where. And then 7.2 is just another way of looking at which standing committees would have which other committees, commissions, or boards reporting to them. And then the membership thing, Supervisor Luck already went over it, but step 8 is just kind of restating that in a different way. And then step 9 is all the research that we did and all the changes we found out need to be made to that committee structure document and appointments document. So there's a lot that needs to change through this research we found out. There's a lot of inaccuracies. We're not following a lot of the things that we already said we should be doing. So we made all the notes here in one chart so they can be easily referenced if we decide to move forward, changes. And I know Mr. Cosgrove has to step out, but being here so long, and yeah, I wish he didn't have to either, but definitely share your opinion. We want to know what your opinion is because we got to figure out how to move this, if we want to move it forward, and if so, how.
Can I ask one more
Mr.
question?
Chair,
Let's go ahead, Mr. Seat first, and then go to you.
I understand that we have the Veteran Service Commission reporting to the Veteran Service Committee. Is that correct? And then the Veteran Service Committee, along with other committees, reporting to Human Services?
Right or wrong, in our current committee structure document, it's called the Veteran Service Commission. Basically, what would happen under this proposed option D model that is up on the screen right now, the Veteran Service Department or staff in that department, they would report to the Health and Human Services Standing Committee. So that committee would consist of 7 county board members, like Supervisor Luck went over, and then 3 citizen members from that have traditionally been on the HHS board, and 1 from Pine Valley. Those citizens on the Veteran Service Commission currently would actually, I guess, kind of stay on the Veteran Service Commission, but we need to give them a more specific role of just the duties of handing out monies to needy veterans. That would be their only role.
That's correct. So who would provide the oversight to the Veteran Service Department?
The Health and Human Services Standing Committee.
Would there be any county board members who are specifically designated to that role?
There would be 7 county board members designated to that role. So that it would increase.
Designated to that larger overarching committee.
That's right.
So apparently one or two of one of those would represent the Veterans Oversight Committee?
No, they would not be separated. Just like on LEJC, they currently, what do you have? 7 members?
5.
No one, 5. No one is assigned. There's not one person to sheriff, not one person to DA, not one person to the coroner. They all equally oversee. Mr. Severson?
This might help Mr. Seep out. So scratch all the committees, all the commissions, get rid of them. This is the model we're talking about, get rid of them. And now that department head just reports to Health and Human Services.
And does that department head have a direct supervisor
Administrator.
in this building, but reports to that oversight committee, that larger oversight committee?
Yes.
So the day-to-day supervision and direction and operational management is ultimately the responsibility of the administrator.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
So that means it's up to the administrator to know when an employee comes to work, know when they're out of the office, or have a system by which he controls comings and goings and the daily operations of the office. Is that right?
That's right. That's not the role of oversight committees anymore. We actually removed
Okay,
that
that's fine.
about a year or two ago.
My big concern is that someone has to manage someone. Everybody has to be accountable in the chain of command. If that's what's happening, I'm happy as hell with it.
Clint, are you
And if it doesn't happen, I won't be happy.
providing oversight to the Veteran Service Officer right now?
Yes, Karen, as the CVSO, is appointed underneath the county administrator.
Danger of over the years.
John,
Pardon?
into the mic. Use your mic.
You got to use your
I'm
mic.
using the mic. The challenge for that office over the years has been undue influence by outside organizations. That has to stop.
Well, that's not, I mean, that's not specifically what we're talking about right now, but I think it is important to think about each department that you're involved with. You know, I think about the examples of the departments I'm involved with, which is land conservation and UW extension. And it is a shift. It is a shift for, I'll use the land conservation committee because they are all employees of the county. It's a shift to think about, it's no longer the land conservation committee that's overseeing and directing the day-to-day activities of staff. I think, I don't want to speak for Supervisor Left, but I'm guessing that both of us are going to have some problem or challenges with trying to figure out how to make that transition. But I do think that this transition to a larger natural resources committee is going to be good to get us out of that business of day-to-day operation and focus on the big stuff.
Very good.
So I think I kind of feel what you're saying, and I'm thinking through it too for myself, and I still want that, I want that change.
I just had a little question.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Go
No,
ahead.
no, I shouldn't be even asked this because I'm not, but I was always under the impression that the highway committee, you know, we always voted on them separately, that there was a statute about how they were elected, and I don't quite know how that works.
Well, that's a really good question, and we actually elect Pine Valley also. So statutorily, there is a statute, and Mr. Severson, you can jump in if I get any of this wrong or if you find something. But there is a way to elect the highway committee, but there's also, within that statute, it gives any county out that if they want to choose another manner for appointing the highway committee, that they may do so. That's how we would deal with that, potentially, unless we still wanted that committee, that Public Works Standing Committee to be elected, the 9 people. We could still do that. We don't have to.
Talk about the parks. So park statute under 27 allows the administrator, it says, because we have had a resolution for creating a parks commission that allows for the administrator shall appoint 7 members. Doesn't say what type of members, whether they're citizen or whatever, but it says shall appoint 7 members, and our natural resources board's got 9. Another thing with that is I like to see public being represented on our park system. I think that's very valuable resource. Instead of just going strictly to county board supervisors. And I don't even want, you got an advisory thing, but to me, that your advisory thing is just like what the fair already currently has. Is they have and there's a I don't know if they're nonprofit. It's called the Fairgrounds Improvement Committee. I don't know if like the parks has like the Friends of Richland County Parks, you know. Make that they don't, but I think that's kind of what you're thinking that maybe could be created where they're just there, but they're not really adding their valued input.
Okay, so picking that stuff in order. So first you mentioned about the administrator shall appoint the Parks Commission. Where are you reading that from? Is that state law or in the?
27.2, 7.02, paren 2.
Okay. Okay, so you're saying that it's not possible for the county board to,
In any county with a county executive or county administrator, except a county with a population of less than 150,000, which is not by resolution provided for a county parks commission, subject to 2702 to 2706, or except any county exercising power under 27.075, county parks commission shall consist of 7 members appointed by the county executive or county administrator, subject to confirmation by the county board.
so I think we should probably look into how they do this in La Crosse County. I think, because I know they've done their combinations, and a lot of those counties I talked to, there was a kind of a informal sense that county board chair and the administrator sit down and they work together. I didn't find any county that was real prescriptive about this. You know, they there was a lot of working together, and I think one of the things I threw out somewhere was what if we did it so that the county board chair appointed all county board members and the administrator appointed all citizens, you know, and they would still have to sit together, the county board chair and the administrator, to sort that out. Now, I don't know if, I didn't hear other counties like super worried about, well, that's technically a board or a commission, so you got to let the administrator do that. And vice versa, when you had, say, a committee, I didn't hear anyone saying, well, that's the county board chair's, you know, purview, that the administrator can't be appointing citizens to that advisory committee or whatever. So I think we just have to figure out something that works, and then we want to make sure we're not breaking the laws and causing problems for Mr. Langreich.
Mr. Chairman.
And okay, so that was the first, hold on just a second. The second part about, you were talking about the Parks Advisory and the Fair Advisory. And I did talk to Adam Haiti, who is in charge of the Fair Improvement Committee, and they're just focused on infrastructure. So I was kind of wondering that, you know, could there be some working together? And he said, we're a 501c3. Our focus is just the improvements, but he said, you know, he understood how the fair worked and how we have volunteers and they do a lot of the work. And so he just thought the history was that citizens want to be involved with the fair. It used to be that just county board members were on the fair committee, is what he told me. It created a lot of problems, and there needed to be that citizen representation. So I'm certainly supportive of that. We'd have to figure out what would go to the Public Works Standing Committee from the fair and what would go to the Fair Advisory Committee. And similarly for the parks, I think we'd have to figure out what does the Natural Resources Committee do with parks, and what does the Parks Advisory Committee do? There'd be some work in kind of sorting that out, I think. Mr. C.
Oh, I'm sorry. I recall that in Sauk County, the Parks Department was a part of land conservation. Whether that's the case anymore, I don't know, but so statutory, Sauk County is doing something wrong.
Okay, any other thoughts? Yeah,
Hey.
go ahead. Why don't you go ahead, Mr. Severson, then we'll go to Ms. Gentis.
I just want to touch on, I know you talked about a county rural planning committee that we didn't have, but you said that was prescribed. You guys figured that out or no?
No,
I kind of found the answer for that.
Oh, you did? Go ahead. We didn't find anything.
So, this is in chapter 27 again. I'll reference rural planning 27.019 rural planning. Talks about, you know, rural planning is used as a section for planning for health, welfare, general, whatever. It goes down to paren 13. It says county rural planning committee when unnecessary. Says any county wherein there exists a county park board, and any county which shall create a park commission under chapter 2702 shall not create a county rural planning committee, but in such that the county park board or commission shall exercise and be possessed of all powers and duties imposed upon the county rural planning committee by this section.
Thank you. There's the answer. You didn't know. That's great. Good job. Okay,
Yes.
let's
I
go on to this.
apologize for not bringing my iPad, which I should have brought.
That's okay.
But,
Go ahead.
Where's the NHS appointment and the library board appointments on those things? Those are all separate, right?
What does NHS stand for?
Neighborhood housing.
Oh, yeah. So if you go to step like 6.2 or 7.1 might be the best one. On the right-hand side, neighborhood housing services is classified as a special appointment body. So we have one county board member appointed to it, and then they would be reporting to the Health and Human Services Standing Committee. So if you had any issues that came up, you would go through there.
But that person would go to that committee, or they have to be on the Health and Human Services Committee to go?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Okay.
Just as far as reporting goes, like, say they have, they want to share a new program that Neighborhood Housing Services is doing,
Okay.
they would start by going to that standing
Or
committee.
budget or whatever. Yeah.
Or their budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want to increase it from 7,500 to 10,000. They'd have to go through HHS to basically accomplish that. And then library boards are all under special appointment also. But we had them all reporting to the executive committee since there's a money tie there to the budget, a pretty big one. We didn't lose those.
I should have brought my.
That's okay. No, ask as many questions as you want. Unless they're after 6 p.m.
You don't say that to me,
Because we're being kicked out before then.
Chairman. I have to go to a funeral visitation in Reedsburg. Wonder at what point here can I be excused, or do you need my vote for something?
Okay, well, let's go to the cover sheet for this. So we have a recommended motion to adopt a framework for committee, commission, board restructuring and return to the Rules and Resolutions Committee with a revised committee, commission, board structure document incorporating the changes.
That's for the changes that we made today to look into, then to come back again.
So it would be to take that option D and the different pieces of research that we uncovered, all these changes that need to be made, and it would be changing that committee structure document and the rules of the county board. I'm sorry, no, just the committee restructuring document. I got confused there. Not the rules of the county board, just the committee structure document, and making changes to that to reflect all this. It's basically, we're building out the skeleton here today. And if the skeleton is acceptable, then we got to put meat on the bones to that committee structure document.
We're not
Actually,
making a final decision today.
we're not making a final decision. It's just to create the committee structure document edits to see what this would look like. We'll come back in March.
I like your analogy.
Thanks. So, I really think, Ian, I don't know what you think, Supervisor Luck, but we spent a lot of time on this, and I think we want to make sure we have support. I don't think we're trying to shove this down anyone's throat. So, obviously, I'm a supporter of it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have brought this forward. But I think it's really got to come from the two of you that you would support this before we go any further.
Two of who?
You and Mr. Severson.
Well, I fully support it.
Okay, so Am I gonna take that as a motion for what I just said, or?
Certainly.
Okay, a motion by Seat. What do you think, Mr. Severson? Okay, second by Mr. Severson. Any further discussion on this? Supervisor Luck, you have any?
I don't think so. I mean, obviously, this is not going to be set in stone. We have
Right.
a lot of time to work out the details and hear everybody's concerns. I think that, maybe the next step is compiling all of the questions that come in from all of the department heads and other supervisors, and then we can have that conversation, but I think us getting to the next step of really fleshing this out will probably answer a lot of those questions. So it seems like the next good step is to flesh this out so you can actually see what it would look like for real.
Okay, thanks for summing it up. I really appreciate that.
Mr. Langrick is going to need a battery for sergeants and drill instructors.
Okay, well, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that carries unanimously. Thanks everyone for listening to us, and keep those questions coming. From anyone who's watching this later, just keep them coming.
Chairman, I have to go, but unless you need another vote.
Nope, you can go ahead and.
Mr. Chair,
Yep,
can I make a
ahead.
possible suggestion?
Absolutely.
I'm wondering if it might be worth our time, when we get this kind of fleshed out, if we actually invited, I'm pretty sure that the county administrator from either La Crosse or Ozaki, that they probably would be willing to come and actually talk to us about how do you, how long do these meetings takes, and how do you address all of these individual issues. I think we could find someone who'd be willing to talk to us about this stuff that have already gone through the process.
I think that's a great idea. We're always willing to educate ourselves, so. Okay, so Mr. Seep, I know you need to take off. We do have on the agenda here, agenda item number 9, a bid process complaint. So I don't know if you want to stick around or what you're. You gotta speak into the mic.
Session, but I think it's a moot question at this point. The board's will has been resolved, and their issue has been resolved in terms of board decision making. I believe that there are some issues that, in reference to complaint, more properly, because we're dealing with somewhat of a contractual issue, or the county has. It may be a matter of conferring with legal counsel closed session in order to ensure any potential litigiousness. And I would move that this matter be set aside and a time and date be set for a closed session because of potentialities of personalities, privacy, of the possibility of discussing the identities of external parties involved.
Well, I just
got to
want to
be careful with that.
I just want to be real clear here that, there were things said at the county board meeting on Tuesday night that were public. While the identities of everyone wasn't laid out, it's pretty easy to figure out those identities. And I think it is an issue of public importance that people know. There were things thrown out, and I don't think a lot of the details were discussed. And I I mean, myself, I guess a committee could overrule me, but I mean, I wouldn't, I know you mentioned the Finance and Personnel Committee, but me personally, I'm not in favor of a closed session going on the Finance and Personnel Committee for this matter. I think, there were some important issues that were brought up during the discussion. But, one of the things that that's right. And the board did make a decision. So, let me let Mr. Severson speak because I know you wanted to have this on the agenda and I don't want to give you a chance here.
Well, there was allegations made publicly of possible wrongdoing of the board that were stated to a radio station that was present, a news station that was present. And this gets published out onto a YouTube channel that's published nationwide. And those allegations were told that this is a very, very serious matter. And to us just to ignore it just because we voted, if there's serious allegations that need to be addressed to it, they need to be addressed so they don't get brought up again or made again. And so I think this needs to be investigated.
Oh, you got to speak in the mic.
Sorry that Wendell isn't here. Oh, fine. I have just this to say. Not wish to discuss further than this. Remarks that I made. Remarks, I have the highest respect for the integrity of the committees involved, the Parks Committee and the Finance Committee. My questions are merely forwarded from a complaint. Any citizen has a right to call any county board member and make a complaint. That complaint did not consist of any allegations from me toward any person, party, company, firm. I did not mention the identity of any, and I didn't mention the identity of the firms or the product. I merely was a vehicle to the county board presenting to them the fact that a complaint was made to me, and when a complaint is made on an issue such as the one that was discussed, I felt it was my responsibility to inform the county board. That was the last place I could go because I just heard the complaint without giving any merit to its truth, its veracity, whether true or false. I merely presented that. I made no personal accusation toward the committee, for which I have the highest respect. Gary has been my respected friend for years. Takes this personally. I'm very sorry that happened. If I misspoke, then I may have misspoke. I do not want to be misunderstood. My remarks were in the interest of Richland County. I said nothing to damage or harm anyone. I have a perfect right and a responsibility and a duty to bring forth a complaint that was made to me to the venue, to the only venue I had before an important vote. I fully respect the decision of the county board. I never get angry if someone votes no on my motion, and I didn't get angry in this case. I am sorry that others got angry, but I received very harassing calls, and so did others, accusing me of making accusations which I did not make toward anyone. Talked about a complaint about the process. Not wish to discuss this further. If there are possibility of merely raising more complaints.
Mr. Seat, thank you for that explanation. I think there just needed to be a little follow-up after the county board meeting. And I think, one thing I'm gonna look into, and if folks have other opinions on this, I just want to look into the potential relevance of this to the county's ethics ordinance. And if that's the case, then we can get into more detail with this through our ethics board responsibilities. So I'm going to be talking with Mr. Wendell about that, so.
I respect you too, Don, but you said that you had a complaint that was raised up in a complaint, and that's what we're doing here, is addressing a complaint. That's our job, is to address a complaint and not let a complaint go.
Okay, I think unless Supervisor Luck, you want to chime in with anything, I think we'll move on. Since we got to get out of here. Agenda item number 10, future agenda items. Either one of you have any of those?
Not for me.
Okay, and then agenda item number 11, adjournment. So I am out of town in California. We regularly meet next.
Yeah, I won't be here either that first week.
Okay,
I'll be in Hawaii.
so I wonder if we should try to reschedule it for a later date. Do either of you have any opinions on that?
How about the next week? So
Okay, and then let's see, Mr. Marshall, if you have any opinions on this too with MIS, just feel free to speak up here. But the next week would be, usually meet on the first Thursday of March, that's March 3rd. Second Thursday would be March 10th.
that works for me.
That work for you, Mr. Severson? March 10th, Thursday. Okay, so March 10th, Thursday.
It may work.
Okay. So we try to go back to our original time of 1 p.m.
I'm fine with whatever.
Okay, does that work for you, Mr. Langrick? Do you know?
March 10th at
3 p.m. Would we conflict with any other bodies that might meet in here?
I would have department heads scheduled at 2 o'clock, but that's an online one, and we can work around that or move that as need be to make this fit.
And then does that work for MIS as well to do 1 p.m. on March 10th instead of 1 p.m. on March 3rd?
There's a property committee that's typically scheduled, but that's at 3 o'clock.
Okay. Well, a 2 hour limit would not be the worst thing. We put in our time today. We sure spent a lot of time. Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn to Thursday, March 10th at 1 p.m.
So moved.
Motion by Luck,
Second.
second by Severson. So we are pretty much adjourned. I agree with that. Thanks, everyone.